Everyone, hold on a second. As you are taking your seats, everyone, can I ask you all, we're going to be using certain technology today. Sorry, before I get into that, actually, a couple of quick things. We are going to be live streaming this here, so for the most part, you won't be able to see everyone in the audience. It'll be whoever stood up here, and we are going to be taking photos and videos. If you don't wish for those to be shared with the world, please let one of my team know. But we will be streaming live. So if you didn't tell your boss you were coming today, you might want to kind of sit at the back of the room. So if you want to grab your mobile phones, just take your mobile phone out of your pocket. The piece of technology we're going to be using is called Poll Everywhere. Those who have been here before will have used Poll Everywhere. If you haven't, you can access it in one of two ways. Either go to your internet browser and type in this URL into your browser, or if you've got the app, you can download the app and use the app, but you don't need to. It works just as well either way. So before we kick off, I'm just going to make sure your technology is working. So we're going to, once you've logged into that, if you have any problems, ask the person next to you or just stick your hand in the air. One of the team will come and help you. pollev.com/Biz Group. If you need the Wi-Fi password, it's on the screen. It's also on the back of your badge, I believe. Wasn't that smart? Someone in the team's a smart cookie. Always searching for the Wi-Fi password. So once you've logged on to that, we're going to run a couple of quick test questions just to make sure it's working. How much of your company's learning content is currently digital? Just a rough guess. How much is digital versus more traditional means of delivering learning? And as you respond, it should pop up on the screen. Sorry? That's not the question. That's worrying. Which is why we do this in the first place. What do you see? How would you rate this Learning Trends event? Thanks for coming, everyone. It was lovely to have you all here. Please rate either a 9 or a 10. It's really important for our NPS score. Okay, try refreshing your screen. Can somebody come in and help these guys out with that before we get to the real stuff? The same question, the same NPS score. Okay, we're going to resolve it. Let's see if I flick the screen over to the next one, see if that works. Does that change? Hands up if it hasn't changed. It's changed. Yes. Success. That's why I do this bit, so it doesn't get screwed up for the important guys when they start talking, right? Okay. So now we've got that working. We're going to get started. If everyone that's not taken a seat, please do so. Please remember how you did that bit, because if someone joins a little bit late, we might get you to teach them how to do it as well, so they don't lose out and miss out on this session. So I'm going to hand you over to Hazel and we can get started.
Good morning. No, I don't think, Don probably does though. Morning, my name's Hazel Jackson. For those that don't know me, I'm the CEO of Biz Group. Thanks, Matt, for doing the technology bit so it doesn't look like I got it wrong. My first real job, obviously last week, a number of years ago, was selling classified advertising for Yorkshire Post newspapers. I moved from the advertising agency, then I moved to London in an advertising agency, and I sold advertising to London businesses, telling them that brochures, billboards, TV advertising, radio advertising really, really worked. But I had no evidence whatsoever, had no measures that it was really making a difference. There was no guarantees, but at that time, there was no alternative. I came to Dubai in 1993 and decided that advertising perhaps wasn't my bag. I was still interested in marketing and advertising, but I went into training. And at about the same time I started my company, The first website ad AT&T paid for in 1994 for $30,000 was 3 months worth of banner advertising, okay? Fast forward 6 years, in 2000, Google Ads introduced Google AdWords, okay? Started. 2005, digital marketing took off. Do you know how much was spent on digital marketing last quarter, 2018? $26.2 billion. So it took a fair long time, 24 years, to go from perhaps no measures and all the money spent without knowing what was going on, to a time where marketeers need to count every cent and tell you a return on investment. Well, learning and development is going through the same journey. We now have the capability to measure business impact and results. And guess what? The marketing companies didn't believe it a number of years ago. And in some instances, the L&D professionals don't believe it now. We've changed the way that learning and development can have a business impact. And today's session, and in a moment when I introduce Christine, I want you to be thinking about how resistant marketing and advertising people were, and perhaps how resistant learning and development people are now. It's changed, and it's changing faster than marketing. They took 25 years. I reckon we're going to take another couple of years, and if you don't have measures to prove business impact in your learning and development suite, your learning analytics, you will be significantly behind. And so I believe strongly in us educating. The seats at the front for those people that come in towards the end, they're really nice, these people up here. Yeah, they've come often, they're good friends of ours. So if you want to stay ahead, you need to understand how you do that. Is it easy? Not necessarily. It wasn't easy for the ad agencies and the advertising and the marketing people. We need to figure out how to measure human behavior, learning and development, change, engagement, all of those things in a better way. We've been working for the last 4.5 years with one of the game changers in learning and analytics and personalization. Our partner Exonify now have over 3 million users, helping them deliver learning and measuring business impact in their organizations. They're actually the power behind today's event and our ability to bring Donald Taylor with us. And so I'd like you to put your hands together and just welcome for a moment while she introduces Donald, Christine Tutzel, the co-founder of Exonify.
Thanks, Hazel, and good morning, everyone. So I'd just like to introduce Don to everyone. I've known Don for a few years. He started his career back in the, oh, can you hear me? It's not often people can't hear me, Hazel. So Don started his career back in the 80s, actually doing instructor-led training in Turkey, of all places. And anyways, he eventually got his way back to the UK and continued his journey in learning and development. And today he's now the chairman of the Learning Technologies Conference. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Learning Tech in London, hands up. So it's a great show, and it is actually the most active show I've ever been to in my life. I've been doing this for actually longer than Don. And, you know, been to tons of shows, but this one has tons of activity, great learning, and great opportunity to find out what's the latest in learning tech. And so Don's chairing that conference. He's also chairman of the Learning Performance Institute. And they focus on really how do we drive business development or business impact in learning. And that's what Exonify is all about. So I really think that that's a really good fit, you know, in terms of Exonify sponsoring this event with Donald today. So Don actually is an author, a speaker, and a facilitator, as you'll see in the session today. And one of the ways that we initially got connected with Don at Exonify was through his sentiment survey and the research that he does around what's happening out there in trends in learning today. And part of the discussion will center around that as he takes you through it. So please join me in welcoming Donald H. Taylor.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Can I say sabah here? Okay. How long have you been, we've been sort of having a trade-off here about how long we've been in this industry for. If you've been in learning and development for 1 to 5 years, could you put your hands up, please? Okay, welcome, thank you. Good to have your energy and enthusiasm in the community. 6 to 15 years. All right, people lots of experience under their belts, and more than 15 years. Okay, more than 20. Oh, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. And I think, you know, for us, just getting our hands into the air is a bit of an achievement. So well done, everybody. Good job. Yes, I've been in this game a long time, starting off with actually programming computers in 1981, and then going on to do classroom delivery in Turkey, and then coming back to the UK and doing a bunch of stuff. And I'll tell you about a story about that in a minute. I just want to give you a quick background. All the pictures of this, I think, are taken by me, apart from this one, hence the quotation. But the key thing here is, I'm Donald H. Taylor on everything. If you want to get in contact, if you want to stay in touch, during, afterwards, Twitter, LinkedIn, Gmail, just search for Donald H. Taylor, that's me, okay? So let's make sure that we're in touch. The reason I say that is that we're moving our understanding of what learning and development is from the idea that it's an event, a one-time thing, to a process. Well, for me, that means I can't just stand here, do my jazz hands, fly back to London and leave you. We have to have an ongoing relationship if it's going to be useful. So please, feel free to stay in touch. So, it's just gone 9 o'clock. In a minute, I'll tell you some stories about what I was doing just gone 9 o'clock in 1993. But first, I want to hear from you, because I want to make this a collaborative session. By the way, of course, these pictures, I say, are from London, Piccadilly Circus. But the question that I've got that I want you to answer is this one. What's changed in learning development for you over the past 5 years? We've established, we've got lots of experience in the room. What I'd like you to do is to turn to the person next to you, have a quick conversation. What's changed in the last 5 years? And then we'll get some feedback. Is that clear? All right, go ahead. All right. Well, I love asking questions to L&D people. You ask a question, loads of conversation, everyone chats. I'm sure everyone's got some great stuff to share. The great thing about L&D people is you start them talking. You can't stop them. It's fantastic. They think they've come here to meet. No, they come here to hear each other talk. It's brilliant. Okay, right, let's go. Have we got any? We've got a fantastic conversation going on there. Loads of chat, loads of ideas, experiences being shared. Who wants to let the rest of the room know? predictably, suddenly everyone's shy. Come on, we've got some great stuff here. Who wants to share something? Did you just adjust your hair there? No, okay, okay. Anybody, come on, go on. Yes, go on. I'll come to you next. Yes, go on. Okay, last 5 years. Go, Mike, go again. Okay.
I think it's working.
Hazel, are we streaming? Okay, because we're streaming, we need to be able to capture the audio. Okay.
Yes, I think over the last 5 years, I've probably seen.
Hold on.
Can you hear?
Can hear you now.
I would say over the last 5 years, or probably longer, what I've seen is that businesses' attitudes are changing towards L&D. But when I say this, unfortunately, I think that can be predominantly in a negative way.
All right, let's start with Dan on a downward note. Okay. All right. So Sean's given us a challenge. Business impact. We're not showing that. In fact, we're not talking the language of business enough. Okay, thank you.
I think pretty much everything changed.
Oh, everything changed.
Mostly the learner.
Yeah, the learner. No, okay, you can't stop there. The learner changed. How did the learner change?
If we compare the adult learning principles by Knowles and
Yeah.
comparison to the behavior of the learner today,
Right.
I think learners are more self-driven, autonomous, and they pretty much can pick up the content for themselves.
This is really
today.
interesting
So
point.
they don't
So
have to
people-
do it anymore.
A lot of nodding heads. The people driving it, they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So what about us? Don't answer that. Otherwise, I have nothing left to say. And we'll get to that later on. Any other? Yes, sir. I'll come to you in a second. So,
People want to add fun while learning.
damn it, they do, don't they? Curse
So
them, yes.
gamification has been a wonderful change.
Yeah.
And then more personalized learning.
Gamification,
Yeah.
personalization, they like
Yeah.
watching video as well.
And then time. Again, time, you don't have much time. So if learning comes in a bit of, small size, it's bite size.
Well, I asked for one thing, give me 4 things then. They're all good. So fun, small, time. And absolutely right.
So the learner has changed.
The learner has changed.
What strikes me is that there hasn't been a lot of change in L&D, so there's a kind of resistance.
You can't see, but everyone's nodding behind you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, the learner's changed. Maybe the business has changed. What about L&D? Maybe we're not changing so much. Emma, sorry, Debbie.
We were having a discussion around mature and evolving markets.
Mature and evolving markets.
Because we've had a bit of experience with both. So we think that the evolving markets are catching up from an awareness perspective,
Yep.
maybe from they didn't know what they didn't know to now, knowing that they don't know.
Well, and that's a really good point. That I think it used to be the case running Learning Technologies Conference in London that I would. It was a bit like being in a port in the medieval times. Ships would come in and you'd hear stories from the sailors about what was happening in these far lands. And there'd be a very slow process of understanding what was going on. Now, it's almost instantaneous. The lag between something happening that's interesting in one place and people picking up and using it has really compressed, maybe from 5 years down to 1 year. So we can't expect there to be that much of a lag. So I think it's a very fair point. Okay, one last point. Now let's go on. Show everybody what you got.
It's reduced the lag, it's introduced the content, it's engaged everyone, it's gamified everybody, it's the device.
Yes.
And we can't take the device away. That's what's changed for me.
Okay, that's a really good point. Okay, clearly we've got a room of people who are smart and savvy and experiencing what's going on and thinking about it. So thank you for that, and let's keep the dialogue going. I'm going to ask you questions during the course of this and ask you to sort of shout out or talk with each other and what have you. I said I was going to tell you what I was doing this time in 1992 or 3, anyway, a long time ago. The answer is that I was in a factory in the East End of London, and I'd come back from Turkey, as Christine mentioned, and I was teaching. I was doing classroom training in Excel. Excel version 3. This did exist. And I didn't have PowerPoint, I had an overhead projector. Now, for the younger members of the class, that's, anyway, overhead projector, and I had black and white acetates that I put on this, and honestly, a lot of nodding heads, if you ever use these acetates, the worst thing is the end of the day, collecting them all up and getting them in the right order the next time. Nightmare. And at the beginning of the day, I would have gone around all of these non-network machines with my floppy disk, putting my Excel example files onto them. And then I would teach Excel for one day, and if people wanted to know about the if function, they had to wait until 2:30 in the afternoon. I would tell them about the if function, and I was the controller of knowledge in the class. And it was ridiculous. I mean, no, they got a good lesson, fine. But you're absolutely right. What would they do now? They'd get their phone out. They'd get their phone up, they'd look up the if function, and that whole role gone. There's no reason to do that anymore. Absolutely right. So we had this feedback. Everyone in the room's experienced it. We've shifted over that period. It's not just the physical things. We don't have the overhead projectors. It's the way we think about learning. It's the way people, as you're saying, expect to learn. What do the users do? What do the people do? Well, they expect to be self-driven and find out for themselves. That affects us quite a lot. I'm going to talk very quickly about the drivers that have got us here. Then I'm going to give you a menu of what's happening for the rest of us for the rest of the next couple of hours. So firstly, I want to put just a couple of slides about the new world of work we've got. Very quickly, it's not an economics lesson, but kind of important that this is not, the world we live in now is not the world that we were in when I grew up in the 1970s. So back in the 1970s, when I was in short trousers, manufacturing was still the biggest part of most developed economies. Now, of course, this is a familiar graph to you. Manufacturing has gone down, regular services have gone across, but knowledge-based services on the increase. At the same time, what gives companies their value has changed as well. It used to be, in the days of manufacturing, that what mattered was the physical stuff you had. The plant, the buildings, the land. And that's shifted. So the new graph here, this bar graph, is the tangible and intangible assets and the makeup of the value of the S&P 500. It used to be that the vast majority of the value of a company was tangible, the stuff you could touch. Now it's vastly intangible. Over 80% of the value of companies today is intangible. That means it's the IP, the brand value, the stuff people can do. It's all related to people. And that's where we come in. It should be, and I think this is to your point, Sean, it should be that L&D is vastly important to organizations because we create the ability of people to, in an agile way, learn, create knowledge, distribute it, and so on, and build that intangible asset base. I'm not sure that we do see that. All of the polls you see from companies like PwC, Gartner, and so on, what do CEOs care about? Well, they care about skills. Do they translate that into a seat at the table for learning and development? No, because I think at this point that we're not talking the right language, expressing it in a way, and making our case. Well, we're going to come back to that later on. So, two big things here. We've shifted towards services and intangible stuff. People are increasingly important. Of course, the third big driver is technology. And as you said, we've got this enormous, incredible ability. When I went to school, if you wanted to know something, you went to a library. That was it. Or you talked to somebody. Now you can access the sum total almost of all human knowledge through a computer you carry in your hands with a swipe of your thumb. It is mind-blowing. It's the biggest revolution since Gutenberg. We don't bat an eyelid. And what do we do with it? We send information around the world, trivial and also very important. This is the third greatest tweet of all time, from third most retweeted tweet of all time. It's from the Oscars in 2014, and generous. And yeah, that just went around the world. For me, that signifies what has changed in information flows. When I was doing that Excel course, I was the person you had to get through to get to what you wanted. And of course, that isn't the case anymore. Now, bang, anything you want, information, flies around almost frictionlessly. I think to your point, people have changed, but I'm not sure that L&D has. We're still operating in the world, typically. I don't say this in a negative way. I think there are reasons for it. but still we're operating in a way, and we're expected to operate in a way. People want us to operate in a way as if knowledge was still tied up in books, and it's not anymore. I think there's a big change. We're going to look at that later on. All right, so what are we going to look at? We're going to look at 4 things: technology and trends. We're going to look at content, skills of learning and development. That's my big passion. Are we ready for the future? What do we need to change? And then finally, change. An invitation to think about what you might do differently. And because I'm saying this is not just a one-time event, we're doing a webinar as a follow-up in June. And so the change section at the end will lead on to, let's get ready for that webinar and how we can make it a valuable time together. Okay, this is a photograph I took in York in the Steam Museum up there. I love the Industrial Revolution as a mirror to our times. It's very interesting. People say we're going through the 4th Industrial Revolution at the moment, and I think there's a lot in that. As Christine said, I do a survey every year. I ask people internationally about what they think is going to be hot and important in learning and development going forward. What I'd like to do now is talk about what I get out of that survey, and then we'll have a discussion around what that means for us. So I asked, and I've done this since for the last 6 years, since 2013. I asked one question: what will be hot in learning and development next year? By the way, these slides are going to be circulated. Feel free to take photographs. No question at all, that's absolutely fine, but don't worry about missing anything. So I asked the question: what will be hot in workplace learning and development next year? And people choose 1, 2, or 3 options from a list of 15. And this year I had nearly 2,000 voters from 92 countries in total. And I need to give you some caveats. Firstly, I get to these people through social media and email, but I bill it as a 1-minute, 1-question survey. And I don't actually know if these people responding are from learning and development. I believe they are. There's no reason not to be. And the people we contact are on learning and development lists. So that's one caveat. The other caveat is that it's a non-representative sample. But you're familiar with this curve. This is the Everett Rogers diffusion of innovation curve. We've got innovators. These are people who do stuff right at the beginning when something's interesting and new. The laggards, the people who are the last people to take up any new technology. I'm working with some lawyers in the UK at the moment on a personal issue with my dad, and they insist on sending me documents in the format of the lawyer's internal system, which is completely unique to that particular branch of the, they haven't quite got into the 21st century with their technology. They're great lawyers, but they are definitely laggards in technology. So this is the distribution of how innovation spreads. The people who respond to the survey are self-selected. They choose to respond. They are almost certainly all at this end. They are the innovators and early adopters, the people really excited by new technology. All right. And when they respond, and this is important because we'll look at what the results are in a second. When they respond, I think that there are 3 types of response you can get. Just want to log this in your mind right now. You have stuff that's really new, and people say, I'm excited about that. You have stuff that has sort of established itself. It's coming down the tracks, people are using it, but it's not used by many people in that first 2 lots. And you've got BAU, business as usual. Stuff that was exciting a few years ago, now it's actually, people aren't rating it as being so exciting because everyone's using it. Okay, just bear that in mind, we'll come back to that later on. All right, Donald, enough with the build-up. What were the options, what were the results? Okay, here are the 15 options, plus I give people a chance to say other, what else might you think? What I'd like you to do is to turn to your newfound friend sitting next to you. If you're at the back, you can just answer the question yourself without, if you can't read it, just think to yourself what the answer is. The question is, what do you think will be hot in workplace L&D? I'd like you to choose one thing from there and describe to the person next to you why you think that's going to be hot this year. Okay? What's going to be hot? Go ahead and talk to your neighbour. Okay, sorry. Language difference. Thank you for watching. Anything else? You could just hop around. If there's anything, feel no compunction at all about interrupting at any point you want to. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. 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 We only had to choose one thing. All right. Any ideas? Any thoughts? Yes, sir. Learning analytics. Okay, learning analytics. Yeah. Yes. That's fine. So learning analytics enables us to show the value of what we're doing. Really answering this point from earlier on. Yes. Sir. AI. Straightforward. AI. Anybody else? So, analytics, AI. Development of the L&D function. Oh, sorry? For tomorrow's. Okay, good. That's one that's close to my heart. Anything else? Yes?
I'm not sure whether I missed it, but consulting more deeply with business would be very critical.
Consulting more deeply with the business, it is critical. My question is, do learning and development people think it's important? I agree with you. I think it's important. Let's see the results in a second. Yes. Personalization, adaptive delivery. Why? We try to paint everyone with the same brush, exactly, and people. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Was a hand. Sorry, there's a microphone down here. Road mic lost. Okay. There we go. Anybody else? Yeah, they see that's feel much more comfortable if they can't be heard. All right. Yes. Go ahead. Hold on.
Personal belief on that, and actually, it's going to be.
No, that was on.
So my personal belief is going to be the virtual and augmented reality investment.
Okay, why?
Moving forward, especially, 2019 and beyond, we are facing a lot of economic pressure all over. So I think the VR technology will make more efficient investment in the future and help actually accessing to different regions, to different countries, and to different customers. Which were actually difficult because of the logistic part to reach out to them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. VR and AI used to be a very complicated, very expensive technology, and you need to have a very specific skill set to write the content for it. Now it's easier, it's cheaper to do, and you're right, you can get people in New York and Bangalore having a VR experience together. Okay. Right, I know you're all desperate to see what the answer actually is. What do people say? Let's have a look. Okay, so these are the results. 1 to 8, and then 9 through to 16. And the top 3 are personalization, you'd be pleased to know, AI, learning analytics. So this side of the room doing very well. It's not a competition. 2/3 of the vote goes to the top 8. So the placing here is actually more important here, because only 1/3 of the vote goes to the bottom half. Things can move around quite a lot. So if something's 13 or 14, it doesn't quite signify so much. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much because it's a bit difficult for everyone at the back to see it. And you'll get those results and you can download the full report. We'll send you the link to the report so you can download that as well, which compares this with previous years and so on. But what I'd like to do is have a look at this technology and just ask ourselves, well, actually, what we should do for a second is just stop and say, why is this important, what people are saying? Well, it's important because, remember, these people are the early adopters and the innovators. Now, it might be that this is not important, not being used now, but history shows that what these people think is important now does get used 2-3 years down the line, inevitably. So that's why we're looking at this data. Let's look at 3 key takeaways from it. First thing is, it's all about data this year. This is something that hasn't happened before. These top three are all underpinned by data in a way that hasn't happened in the previous years in the survey. Personalization is best done when you understand how people operate. Artificial intelligence, of course, relies on data for the algorithms to work. Learning analytics, you pull data in and you use it in 2 ways. One is in order to show your value. You show your value to the business by using the analytics, but the other, of course, is to look at what you're doing and you look at how you can improve it. So there's 2 values, 2 uses for learning analytics, both driven off data. Okay, so that's the first bit. It also, though, made me think about what Hazel was saying earlier on about marketing. She mentioned, I think it's very graphic, this shift in how marketing has changed in the past 20 years, from being smoke and mirrors to this. Now, John Wanamaker famously said in the 19th century, half the money I spent on advertising is lost. The trouble is, I don't know which half. He said that in the 19th century. If you try to say that today, as a marketeer, very rapidly you would lose your job. Very soon in learning and development, we'll be in the same sort of position. Data is going to be expected of us. Have we got the skills to deal with it? We'll look at that later on. Spoilers, the answer is no. We don't have the skills. But I just want to look at it in a bit more detail later. Okay, second thing is, let's not fool ourselves that this is some sort of law. This is the opinion of 2,000 people worldwide. Great. But there is variation between regions, and that's quite important. For example, if you look at the bar graph here, we've got India and we've got North America. So the Americans are mad keen on personalization. Each year for the past 3 years, they've nearly voted 14% personalization. No other region votes that highly for it. In contrast, the Indians are much less interested in it. The Indians are very interested in learning analytics, the Americans much less so. So across regions, things vary. And of course, the same is true here. Go ahead. You have to shout up. Oh, sorry, Hazel's sprinting. Hazel, do you want to put your flats back on if you're going to be running them down?
Why do you think there's a difference in, like, for example, the responses when it comes to micro-learning? Like, if you see there, India is very low on micro-learning, although we see at the moment that it's more of, like, for example, after the training or any intervention, micro-learning is really gaining a lot of, like, for example, boost. So why do you think that it has gone down when it comes to India?
Microlearning has a lot of support in North America because there was strong movement towards the microlearning industry generally in 2015. A lot of money went into the industry and it went through an explosive growth, and interest then spread throughout the world. So that's why it's strong in North America. Why it's less strong in India, I don't have the information to say. I can speculate, which is that there may be other things that people think is more important, so they don't vote for that, but they do vote for analytics, for example. Another reason might be that it may be that mobile in India, although I find this difficult to believe, has technical issues locally. I don't think that is the case. There's a very strong mobile industry in India. So I can't know right now. I'll be going there later on this year, and then I will come back with a perfect answer, of course. Any other questions about this? Because when you look at this, it immediately triggers any thoughts. So if you've got any questions, please just throw your hands up and ask. Okay, so there are regional differences. Let's not fool ourselves that everyone's the same. Actually, there's difference, which is great. In the run-up to this event, Hazel sent out an email asking everybody to answer this survey. And as a result, we've got just about enough. We've got 97 people, if I add together what I had before and responses, to produce a list of what the Middle East thinks is going to be hot next year, next to the world. And you are the first people to see this. But I will be producing a fact sheet on this, maybe think about some of the reasons behind this, and getting the information out. It's about, I think it's 97 people have responded to this from the Middle East. What's interesting for me is that it's not very different to the worldwide picture. Personalization is number one, for example. But some of the other ones look a little bit like the picture that I was looking at last year, or possibly the year before. Microlearning is higher this year with the Middle East. Microlearning is higher, video is higher, mobile delivery are higher than they are worldwide. Collaborative learning is higher, whereas it was number 2 last year worldwide, it's now number 4, and so on. Now, this is really fresh, we only got this over the weekend, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but I will produce some more thinking about that in a briefing document for you. But the key point is that the world is different, we're not all the same. Sadly, a lot of us believe that developing the learning and development function is a core and very important thing. The world puts it at number 15, and the Middle East puts it at number 15. So it's my job, it's my vocation to try to make the L&D function fit for the 21st century. I have a lot of work to do. Fine, well, I'm going to carry on. 3 key takeaways then. It's about data. The world is different in different places. And this final one, there are some persistent technologies around there. I'm going to come back now to that bell curve we looked at earlier on. What are these persistent technologies? Persistent just meaning that they're sticking around. Okay, the people at the back are now pulling their hair out. I can't read it. You don't have to read it, don't worry. I'm going to put some colors on here in a minute. Okay? But this is the results, and you'll get this if you open up if you download the report, you'll get this. That's the results of the last years. And here are some of the options highlighted. So this red one is mobile delivery. In 2014, mobile delivery was number 1. And you can see it's been in a downward trajectory. Video has been in a downward trajectory. Why? Because the question is, what's going to be hot this year? Well, in 2014, mobile was ultra hot. Now, yeah, business as usual. We just use it, don't we? Yes. Micro-learning, interestingly, went up, came down. I would expect it to be going down this year. Again, because I'm thinking, well, you know, perhaps it's become business as usual. Virtual and augmented reality, same sort of trajectory. But what actually happened this year, interestingly, is that these persistent technologies stuck around. They didn't go down. They stayed in the same place, or in the case of mobile, they actually bounced up. So what happened here? What happened here is that I asked more people to respond to the survey. And because I asked more people to respond, I got a greater number of people, not from just the early, not just the innovators, but also from the early adopters. I was getting more response from this part of the curve. So interpreting the results, I would say that mobile and video are definitely in the business as usual. These people here think it's hot. because for them it's a bit new still. Maybe they've got some real issues, and if you're using mobile in a large organization, you will have issues. Does it reproduce well on all screens? Can you get the content out to people? Is it secure? There are lots of tactical issues with getting that distributed. But it's working, and it's exciting, so for them it's hot. I've put micro-learning here. It's not quite business as usual, but it's certainly established itself as something you can expect to use as a tool. Virtual reality and augmented reality, well, it's no longer ultra new. It's not business as usual. It's in the middle. It's coming. And I think it's going to establish itself. To be honest, I was skeptical about VR and AR. Does anybody remember Second Life? Yeah. A lot of heads and a lot of, Second Life. Second Life, a great waste of time and money for a lot of people around 2003, 2004, creation of virtual worlds which did nothing, but they looked good. And I was worried that VR would go the same way. What's happened is the price of kits has come down, the accessibility of skills has come down. Now it's something actually which the payoff in terms of high risk or high, either high risk or high impact situations of training, it's very valuable. So that's coming. All right. And by the way, just to put the top three in place there, the top three are learning analytics, AI, and personal. Personalization is here. It's business as usual. What does that mean? Hang on. Are we personalizing? No. Most people aren't actually personalizing properly. But what they are doing is they know it's important. They know it's something we do have to do. So that's what I mean by business as usual. AI is absolutely coming. It's just part of our lives. We can't get away from it. Use Netflix, use anything online. It knows about you in a way that we have to now start adapting to in L&D. And learning analytics is totally going to be, okay, I don't normally speculate with a survey, but I would say if learning analytics is not number 1 or number 2 next year, I will eat a what? I will eat a bit. Okay, I will eat a candy Bizball if one is available. All right, thank you. I'll come back here in front of you all. I'll eat one of Hazel's. All right, okay, let's move on. This looks like something from a science fiction movie. It's actually just a railway bridge in the city of London. I just thought, wow, I've got to capture that. And for me, I want to, I've done a bit of background. Okay, that's where the technology is. That's the trends. Let's start talking about our journey now. I want to get to a point whereby we're going to talk about what we're doing and how we could change. And I want to think about this difference between traditional learning and digital learning. We tend to think about this as a continuum. In fact, sometimes we just think it's binary. You're traditional or you're digital. And then sometimes we say, no, you can have a mixture. You're maybe in the middle somewhere. But I think it's more complicated than that. I think actually it's more like a 2x2 grid. And I think we can think about the delivery of our content. The delivery of our content can be electronic or non-electronic, interactive or non-interactive. It gets more exciting. Take a picture by all means. There's not much on there. It gets more exciting. Okay, now that's exciting. So, electronic and interactive. Well, you can have interactive online training. You've got a video, you click on something, great. That's interactive. Or you choose, or whatever. Interactive but non-electronic classroom. Well, hopefully we're having a reasonably interactive experience here, but there's not much electronic stuff going on. Non-interactive, non-electronic books, obviously, and electronic but non-interactive is what I call traditional e-learning, where you're sat in front of a screen and you're reading and you're pressing the next button, and there's not much fun there. Okay, but what I want to do is ask you where you think your training delivery is. You're not going to turn around and talk to the person next to you. The more astute of you will have noticed that around the wall, we have this thing, we have some things posted up. Okay. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to get up. It will be a bit snug. You'll get to meet some people and rub shoulders with them. That's fine. I'm going to ask you to write on those what sort of things you're doing. And it might look something like this. A lot of words scrambled on there. It could be this. This is from ones I've done in the past. I just want to draw your attention to one thing. We'd naturally normally say, well, ILT, instructor-led training, is non-electronic and interactive. But actually, in conversation with Hazel, I realize it's more subtle than that. That is a big lot of what we do, and it's not one bucket. Or if it is, there's different things in it. I think we've got standalone ILT, which is where somebody stands in front of a room and you have a lesson, and blended ILT, where you've got your instructor-led training as part of other things in an electronic medium. Okay? So I think it is more subtle. If you just want to write ILT, that's fine. But if you want to use these as well, or instead, that's fine too. All right, so that's enough talk from me. We've been sitting down for 3/4 of an hour, or possibly even an hour. What I'd like you to do is to find, we have 9 of these around the walls. There's pots of pens. Stand up, go there, and just write on there, what are you doing to deliver your training? What's your mechanisms? I'm going to leave it open for a moment. I'm going to set an expectation of 5 minutes. Yeah, it's kind of crowded. Yes. Of course. All of us together, come on. It's got to be the most important part. Wait. Where are we? That's lovely. Thank you, my pleasure. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. It's really crowded, isn't it? Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, it depends how it's put together, and so you'll move to be in different places. But a well-constructed should have interaction with other people online, where you're discussing the issues you're dealing with. And you may well have interaction with your tutor as well. That's less likely. Sometimes you'll have interaction maybe once every 2 weeks with a tutor. But there should be interaction with other people in different talks. I'm going to take some photographs. So for me, this is the exciting bit of the day. Please feel free to take photographs. Okay. Sorry. Okay. If you got to go, you got to go. Well done. That's all you say.
Get in. Just realize we'll be.
Yeah. I should go his hand earlier on. And said, who are you? That's my Brumwell. Oh yeah. I didn't know your face. I was saying, I know who you are. Not necessarily. Hey, have a pint. Good meeting. So where you guys have flown in? Wow. They are naturally more drawn towards because. Yeah, I would think that whether it's the same. I think you may well be right. But maybe that population I'm surveying. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Very lovely. Absolutely. I think that's. I've got to get really sick now. Okay, thank you. Okay. Wow. All right, let's get back to our seats. Wow. I think this group here wins the prize for the most number of words. Or no, actually, maybe this one here. Okay, let's look at some of them. Right, let's sit down and let's do some feedback. Okay. I think the lure of the coffee table proved too strong for a number of people. We are stopping for coffee literally in about 5 or 10 minutes, so you can go back and get your second cup. That's fine. Did anybody doing this activity? Did anybody see anything or hear anything from somebody else that made them think about what they were doing? Yeah. Sorry, we need a microphone. Thank you, Hazel. Okay. Go ahead.
I saw that.
Sorry.
In our group, the square that is non-interactive, non-electronic, so the books part, was really weak. I mean, we did put something in there, but we don't really. Well, I felt that at least in our company, we're not really pushing that one hard.
Maybe you don't need to.
Maybe we don't.
We don't need to have something in every place, do we? We just need to have the right solution for the issue at hand. But hang on. Do you think that there is a problem you could tackle here? Is there something you think you should be doing here?
Well, we had the debate whether PDFs should be in the electronic side or not, because once you print it out, it's different. So
that's okay. That's really. I don't know actually. I would put them down here, but of course they are electronic, aren't they? They're electronic because they can be shared more easily. So yes, they belong up here. You're right. For example, Get Abstracts do a great job with sharing information. They are up here, and that's précis of the written précis of good books and articles, and that's invaluable. And a lot of people find that's a really good way of doing background learning for their managers and their senior people. Anybody else got anything that they reflected on from this activity? Yes. Okay, Hazel's coming to you again. Matt, are you actually going to give a microphone to anybody? Yeah, she's covering all the ground.
Now, I'm just wondering, I mean, what about our educational system? I mean, what about our kids?
We only have 2 hours this morning.
I mean, all our kids are all doing this, you know, and...
Sorry, that's me. Yeah. So, yeah, go on. The kids are down here, aren't they? So, no, stay with it. So,
I'm just wondering, why didn't it start much earlier in our system?
Okay, it's a great question. I think we've got an answer.
I just want to say the kids now, they go a lot more electronic. The schools now use a lot more online resources than they used to before.
It's true, but in comparison with what we're doing in our daily lives, and indeed even the lives of children as students, their life outside school and their life in school is very different in terms of how they access information. In the sense that outside, well, what I mean is my daughter is 17, and she's studying for her exams. She will use a lot of electronic stuff outside school. In school, it is much more book-driven, but she has some electronic stuff. So it's not that it's black and white, but the balance is different. And she does the key thing is that outside school, she does a lot more sharing and getting ideas from people, the interactive electronic bit, and the interactive electronic bit doesn't take place at all in school. And it would be great if we were teaching people in school, actually, how to do that effectively. But I don't want to get down the whole educational piece. Okay, we've got a hand and go on.
Sorry. Listened to a great podcast last week, David Gillespie out of Australia, talking about neuroplasticity and the development of addiction in teenage brains and the serotonin and dopamine uptake as a result of gamification. And his, as a known educationalist, his stand is that we take electronics out completely until we know these brains have matured, and then we access them. You know, so we think now cigarettes and vodka, 14, 15, dreadful things. So we've eliminated those from our teens, but what we've actually done is given them electronics, which create greater addictions to serotonin and dopamine.
Right.
So when we say, what about schools? We're really at a crossing point or a nexus in our education, and how do we lead these teens to education without actually creating addictive cycles?
We could have.
I know.
We could have a great. Okay, round of applause. We could have a great discussion about this, and we will have a great discussion about over coffee and tea now. But I think that what we'll do is we'll not discuss education anymore because we simply don't have time to do it justice. There's so much more that we could say about it. I will say this: my son, interestingly, who is 21, is graduating in a couple of months' time. My son said the other day that he thought he was quite lucky being born in 1998 and growing up before there was too much interactive electronic stuff going on. And I did encourage them to sit down and use the computer in a responsible way when they were growing up, so I could teach them how to do it right rather than just let them get on with it. He said he appreciated that. It's nice when your kids finally come back after 22 years and say, yeah, I appreciate something. I only took 22 years. All right, that's harsh. Right, final question then, to do with our grid. That's where we are right now. Okay, but we're here, and today is about change. It's about moving ourselves towards a new place. All right, so what I'd like to know is, where do you expect to be? Where do you want to go? I'd like you, that's a quick glance, because I don't want to prompt you too much, but what I'd like you to do is, and what we'll do is we'll do this now, and then I know that if I get you to stand up again, it's going to drift into coffee anyway. So I'm going to go with that, and what I'm going to say is, stand up in a minute, and as you go on your way to getting your coffee, I'd like to draw some lines on the grid. Where do you want to go from to? 1, 2, and as many lines as you want. And let's see, does a pattern build up? Are all the lines in the same direction? All right? That's a very clear task related to your coffee and tea. So on the way to the bar, please just let us know, where are you going to shift? Thank you. Nice to see you. Sorry. Ali, okay, love to meet you. Thank you. I don't have cards with me. So you check? Yes. Thank you. Right. Okay. And what's happening? Okay, we're going to be starting again in 3 minutes. 3 minutes, please. Thanks, everybody. I was fascinated by the results of the training delivery grid, which I looked at over coffee. Some have lots of words on, some just a few words. Most have straight lines. At the back, it's like, I don't know, it's like a Formula One grid. I can't make it out. So they're going left, they're going right. I can't understand it, but does anybody want to just share what they were thinking when they wrote those arrows on? Yeah, one of the arrows. You're taking responsibility for one of the arrows.
You know, basically, we're looking at coming and going from a startup, rather static situation with hopes to do more innovative things, to bring best practices, electronic, VR. But when you're first starting out and you're doing research and you're trying to find the best competencies or the information that's out there, we want to bring information to our students. And currently, we're giving them information. We would like to set them free so that they can pursue their own knowledge that can lead to the pathways of success for their careers.
That's right for them.
Yes.
Okay. Does that explain the arrows?
Well, you know, it does, because learning is a journey.
Okay, learning is a journey. I love that. Thank you. Very good, very good. And actually, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, another one. Yes, go on, very quickly. Then I've got another question for you. Go on.
Mine is also based on...
We have another arrow now. Okay. Come on.
Yeah. See, for me, this is just my thinking, is that just as we have so many models and concepts on leadership theories, situational leadership being one, I feel learning also has that component. So it has to be situational. It depends. I mean, we can't have one size fits all. There might be times when one has to read a book. There has to be times when we are starting off on, say, new joiners, it is imperative that we give them some pre-learning and call them to a classroom, have them go through a session with a facilitator who is an expert, and then we give them the freedom and the license to explore. So that's why I kept putting that it's a cycle that goes on and on.
Okay, well, that's actually a really good explanation. Thank you very much. I like that. This idea that we're not determined by the delivery mechanism. Let's choose the right thing for what we're trying to achieve. Absolutely. Now, what I did notice is that and it's absolutely normal, that on a lot of these, the arrows are sort of going in the right direction above the line, and generally away from the classroom. Generally, we want to do more electronic stuff. Okay. Interestingly, during the break, I had conversations with two people who said, Donald, we're doing this. We have the technology in place. That's not the issue. The issue is the learners. We could take them to the technology, and you know what happens next? Nothing. And that's the issue. Digital learning culture. Getting people to shift from the comfortable situation of being in the classroom and very often, oh good, I've got 2 days out of the office to go do a training course, to, oh, I've now got to do training in my own time sometimes, and certainly not over 2 days. I've got to do a bit here, a bit there, and it's not quite the easy treat it used to be. It's not seen as being something that's, I don't know, a prestigious thing to do. So, just for those people, and I think there are a lot of people in the room, a lot of people will be in the same situation. I'd just like to have a quick conversation about that. Are there any pointers, any thoughts that anybody's got? So the question is, how do we get to a digital learning mindset at work? That's the question. How do we get to a digital learning mindset at work? You've got an answer straight away. Oh, and we've got another question. Okay, come on.
Because otherwise you spoil everything. So you cannot give me an answer right now because I was about to ask you.
This is like one of those arrows just going around in a circle.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's hold it for a second. We'll hold it for a second, and we'll do it later. That's a good point. All right. So, question is, how can we get to a digital learning mindset? And well, everyone's okay. Everyone's throwing answers up. I was going to ask you to talk, but look. Have a conversation. Go on. Talk to your colleague. Have a conversation. Because I think lots of people have got ideas. We'll do it for 1 minute and then we'll get feedback. Okay. So 1 minute conversation, then we'll get the feedback. Go ahead. Okay. Then you tell me what was it. Outside, right? That's the first question. That's the first question I ask these people. So what they do in their private life? Yeah. It's all really good observations. So yes, please do. I'll come to you first of all. That's it. Okay. Okay, let's get some feedback. Again, lots of talking, fantastic. Well, we know this time, we know there's one person who's got something to say. So we'll get the microphone down to Sarah, we'll start here, and then we'll kick off with everybody else. Okay, so beginning here. Do you want to stand up? Come on.
I'm a virtual facilitator, so thank you for putting me in this situation. Anyway, my observation was that those people that generally in a working environment decide to go for a face-to-face option instead of an e-learning online option. They're the same people that outside of their work, they go on LinkedIn, they choose training for themselves, they watch TED Talks. So they are online learners. The difference is that they are in those private, in that private environment, they can choose what to do. So they are responsible for their own choices. And also those platforms, technically speaking, are very easy to navigate. I don't have to ask myself, oh, where do I go? Where do I click? What do I do? I go there, LinkedIn Learning, I type my keyword, and I have a lot of options coming up. So I think it's a technical side on one hand, and also the fact of choosing. I want to choose for myself.
So thank you very much. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but there you go. Okay. Give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's a really good point. The motivation piece is crucial, isn't it? And also the technology, yes. Go ahead.
For us, actually, we will probably go with a sort of like, for example, a generic approach when it comes to like changing the mindset or making it more digital. And what we have discussed is like, we will go with the change management principle from John Kotter. John Kotter from Harvard, he says that for any change initiative, you have to create a sense of urgency.
Yeah, okay, so Kotter, 8 steps. First step, create urgency.
Create urgency, and that's exactly what we have to do, because digitalization is also one of the change initiatives, right? We are not doing something which is different. So considering that, we need to make sure that people, we get the buy-in, and it should come from the top management. Okay. So creating the sense of urgency and role modeling.
Okay, create urgency, role modeling. Let's go here, and then we're going to come here. Yes, go.
Yeah, I think from trying to provide that digital mindset, I think one of the main lessons I've learned throughout my career is the engagement piece from the business to the people. Okay. And what seems to happen if we're launching a new platform or technology in a business, what seems to happen is that the business gets together and they say, right, this is going to be a great solution for us. Right, let's implement this technology. And then nobody really thinks about, well, what about the people? Why, before we even think about this, why don't we talk to the people? Why don't we actually say, this is what we're proposing to do? Do you see a benefit? If not, tell us why. And take them on the journey down this communication route, on the educational piece, all the way up to when it happens. And when it does happen, yes, there will still be a little resistance, but you will have more people engaged because they understand, instead of being at the 11th hour.
Yeah, it's absolutely true that the marketing piece, marketing and communications, needs to start as early as possible, and it needs to be from the business. And we need to be in touch with people all the way down the line, not just talking, but listening as well and reflecting back. Then, during implementation, people understand the motivational necessity of it. We have one here.
I do not actually think we should create a digital learning mindset.
We should not create digital learning mindsets.
I don't think this is where we should focus. I think what we've been doing is we've been spoon-feeding for so long that people get used to it, and this is the mindset that we need to change.
Okay, so it's not that it's digital, it's shifting people from being passive receptors to being active engagers. Right. Okay, fine.
If they choose digital or whatever, then
the medium is less important. Okay, but how do we do it?
John, I would love to echo that. There's an awful lot of our
Do you want a microphone?
No, I don't.
So unnecessary.
Of being more digital because they can use the device are so used to being spoon-fed that there's a gap. Right. You've got to close that gap.
How do we do it?
I think it is, you talked about engagement, you talked about journeys, you talked about communication, gamification. There isn't a magic silver bullet.
No, that's right.
It's actually a series of things that need to happen.
It's a series of things that need to happen. I think one of the key things, which I think we talked about things coming from the top down, but one of the key things that's essential is having management involved. Management decide how people spend their time. And they can say, this is a priority, and I want you to be doing this, and I'm going to ask you, have you done this learning? Or they can say, why haven't you done that thing you were supposed to do? And if they're being pressured on the job, they're not going to get digital learning done. Let's do, we've got two, okay, yes, here, and then here and then here. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think
Go to the gentleman here and then the back. Yes, go ahead.
I think it's also a question of having the right blend and the right availability.
Yes.
So there is so much learning that can be done on an electronic interactive side, but then there's always that human interaction piece that is important to really get that final polish on your skill, whichever it may be.
Yep.
So by giving that final polish, then the electronic part helps you to tailor your courses better and to also select the right people for the right level of knowledge that they have. Because if you just bring them in and say, well, I gave you this course last year and now I'm going to give you the next course, then you don't know how much they actually know or don't know, or where you have to focus on the individual.
The other point about the human interaction side is that it puts pressure on people. If you know you're going to have to talk to somebody about something, what you've learned, then you better have done your homework. You better do it. Yes. Go ahead. And then this gentleman here. Go ahead.
Okay. I think with digital learning, it's like with any digital platform. If we just made it fad-based instead of strategy-based, we will not be successful. We have the temptation always to go to digital because it's nice, it's sexy, but we don't consider the ROI, we don't consider if it aligns to our strategy, and at the end of the day, it's a tool for making things better. But if we don't apply the tool correctly, it's not going to be successful.
So let's not focus on the digital, but rather on the outcome. And the key is the person's mindset. Okay. Finally, this gentleman here, and then we'll wrap up. By the way, you've come from Mexico for this event this morning. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I didn't come.
No, you've come from Mexico. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Fantastic. A round of applause for our longest visitor for Irish travel today. Thank you very much. Okay.
So I was just reiterating that management should not dictate what learners do. We cannot shove learning people down throat.
No.
Let's be honest.
Yes.
If we have to get away from this whole push attitude and have the pull attitude towards learning, maybe digital learning, classroom training, whatever it is, learning has to be made irresistible. And excuse me for using the word, we have to make learning sexy. Okay. So people want to learn and make it meaningful for them so that they will learn eventually. Not just shove down people's throat. It's just bums on seat otherwise.
I totally buy it. Yes, we're all a round of applause, too. Let's give them a round of applause. I agree. But the manager sets the schedule. So the manager can say, hey, you've got the time and it's yours to use. So go pull down what you need. But the management has to be involved. Yes. And they have to be positive about learning. No, because everyone's got great ideas. I'm passionate. We could share stuff on this all day. But I've got another question for you to access via our Poll Anywhere app. If you came late and you don't have this on your phone, then please consult your neighbor. This is the question, and then when I press the next button, it should appear in Poll Anywhere. So ask yourself this question: where is your budget currently being spent? Now, of course, you're not spending all your budget in one quadrant, but is it in one of these? Just think about it. It'll come up in a minute. Just go look at this. Are you ready for me to go? Okay. Okay. Are you ready for me to press the button? Okay. Okay. Here's the question. Oh. I like this. It's like watching a horse race. Okay, that is pretty much what I expected. Most of it's being spent on classroom training, and a little bit on books. No? That was really disappointing. Okay, so that's a fascinating bit of input. Thank you. I'm not saying that's wrong. If you've got stuff in that quadrant that is expensive and it needs to have money spent on it. It may be that money could be spent elsewhere effectively. I'm going to press on now, talk about content, and talk about, do we have the skills for our industry? Okay. So basically, this area here, which is instructor-led training, was where all the votes went. Which makes sense because it's our costly enterprise. Okay? Okay. Does anybody know where this is? It's the Strachov Monastery Library in Prague. Absolutely beautiful. The tragedy is, it was a library, now it's a museum. Kind of says what's happened to the book. I travel all the time with a variety of books, but unfortunately these things now, nobody reads them. They're just there for show. It's kind of sad. I'd just like to ask you a quick question, and we'll just shout this out. What types, books of one type, what types of content are there? Just shout. Video, ebooks. I'm really hard of hearing, you've got to shout. Podcasts, thank you. Webinars. This row here is doing all the work, and they're doing a great job, really. I love you. Loads of different types of content. I'm going to introduce you to an idea of a way of categorizing content. It's only one person's view, but it's a way of thinking about it that might help you establish how you can approach content, and importantly, where you should put your effort. And we'll come back to it at the end. Once upon a time, this is in 2012, if you were creating content for your learners, there were three ways of doing it. You either developed the course internally, which is what I was doing in 1992. I wrote that Excel course. Or, it's a good course, you're laughing. Externally commissioned, you pay somebody else to write it for you. All freely available. Internet, or libraries, or whatever. That was the world of content. I'm looking at it a slightly different way. It's not books, it's not video, it's where does it come from? If we think about where it comes from, that enables us to make some choices. Well, today the pyramid is the same, but there's more inside it. We still have those three. You can still buy, you can still get it for free, you can still make it yourself. But in the middle, and I'm sorry at the back, you might have to squint a bit, in the middle, there are some other ways of getting content that are increasingly important for us to think about. So, we've got generic outsourced libraries, which is my long way of saying a big catalog of courses. And you know the people, they've got 20, 30, 50,000 courses on a catalog. But if you've got that by itself, it's not much use by itself alone. You have to have something else as well. User-generated content is the stuff that you write, that your people write internally. It might be a course. It's as likely to be a PowerPoint presentation. It could be minutes from a meeting. It could be a report that's published internally. Anything that's produced internally that people can learn from. So it's not just stuff that's made for learning. But this one here is the most interesting one for me, because it's a growth area right now. I said that if you've got a generic outsourced library, it's not much use by itself. It's like being given the keys to the Library of Congress and you've got 50,000 books, or which one do you read? What a curated content set does is somebody comes in and they have content, and they have access to other people's content, and they have an idea of what you need. Work together with you so that rather than saying, here's 50,000 courses, they're saying, well, here's 5 bits of learning that's good for your salespeople. Here's 3 that are good for your managers. And here's 10 that are good for your frontline staff. really focused on your business. Now, Hazel, we talked about this earlier, and you said that this is an area that you're focusing on. Is that right?
Yeah, I think on the curated content set, it's about figuring out a learning journey that leverages what you've already got that's free, what you've already got that's a generic outsourced library, where we can have users make videos. Hospitality industry is a great one. The skills already exist. How can they produce the content themselves, which you can then learn from? I'm sure we've all got the same skills inside. What can you create? And then at the top of the pyramid, what might we need to create to help supplement that? And then how do we put it all together? That's the space we'd like to work in. We recognize it's changing. So let's disrupt the way that we work with our clients. It's not just the top of the pyramid anymore. It's that, how do we make the best out of the curated sets? And then do we need to put it on a platform, use our platform, use Exonify, use your platform? How does that work as well? That's a conversation too.
Absolutely. And I think that, by the way, mentioning Exonify, it's very easy to say, oh, externally commissioned work is always some big Hollywood production style expensive course. It can be, and sometimes that's the right thing to do. But also, it could be something like your employees getting a message every day that's 1 minute long that reminds them to do something, or prompts them to act in a certain way, or just reminds them, hey, if you're lifting, and this sounds ridiculous, if you're lifting a box today, don't forget to drop your knees and get underneath it. And guess what? A program like that at Walmart in the US enabled Axonify, I think, to show something like a 25% reduction in injuries at work, just by reminding people with small nudges every morning that there are right ways to lift things up. So it doesn't have to be, the externally commissioned stuff doesn't have to be all big. Thank you, Hazel, for that. Just to put some more information around this, the stuff towards the top of the pyramid, because you create it or because you're asking for it to be made for you, is very highly contextually rich. That's absolutely focused on your business. If it's on the internet, well, it's a pivot table program that you've seen somebody make, and it's nothing to do with your business. But of course, as you come down the pyramid, there's a lot more stuff here, and there's a lot less stuff up there. So that's that. And if you want to, you can think about it in terms of where things are commissioned, inside or outside the business. You just saw there, I'm about to ask you another question. I'm going to put this up here. The question is going to be, where do you source most of your learning content? And with the previous one, I was expecting all the money to be spent in that bottom right-hand corner. I don't know what the answer is going to be on this one. So I'm going to ask you, just think about it, most of your stuff, where does it come from? You ready for the question? All right, let's go. I'm interested in these ones that appear then disappear. Okay. This is very interesting. I'm not, go on. I'm curious, why don't we let employees create? Well, I'm going to get onto that. You're right. Huge. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's absolutely crucially important. So we'll talk about that right now. Sometimes you can't have pilots deciding how to fly the plane, but you can get sales information around pretty quickly, and that can make a huge difference. We're going to talk about that right now. Okay, so this is interesting to me. I don't think it's exceptional. Most of the content's being created internally. I think we'd expect that. But like Hazel says, and the vendors providing us with content, I think that's fine. But this gap here where we don't seem to be using much of what the employees produce at all, I find very interesting. We'll look at that in a second, because I think we're missing an opportunity there to get stuff circulated that's really quite valuable for the business, and importantly, doesn't cost us a lot of money. And it's not just me saying this. I know Rod will take photographs. We're all done with the photos. Lou Platt, famously at Hewlett-Packard, said, if only HP knew what HP knows, we'd be 3 times more productive. And for me, and what he was talking about was having a huge organization where one part would do a great job, but the other parts don't know about how to do it. And for me, this is about getting great user-generated content and then sharing it across the business. There is always a question of quality. Let's come to a discussion on that in a minute. But let me get through this bit first. Firstly, let me just make the point that people are very receptive to user-generated content. Well, it's not so much they're receptive to that, it's more that they know what they like. What is it that people like? Well, good practice, a company based in Scotland do great research into learning and development, and this is from the Secret Online Lives of Managers. Managers were asked about what websites they like to use at work. Now, in learning and development, I know a lot of people who are very focused on making content look attractive, making it easy to use, spending a lot of effort on these things. It doesn't matter to the managers. For the managers, the most important thing was that it was relevant. Now, there shouldn't be a surprise. They're trying to find the answer to a question. They just want to get that. They don't even care if it's easy to find so much. Actually, this is slightly worrying. They're not so concerned that it's credible, just that they can find it easily and that it's relevant. But they really don't care how it looks. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, if it's somebody else in the business, so I've got a problem, help me solve it. If it's somebody else in the business who is sharing that with them, it has more impact for them, and they're more likely to use it. Royal Mail, I'm a non-exec director at a company in the UK that does artificial intelligence, filtered. The Royal Mail had 450 learning assets, and they did a job of looking at these learning assets, how are they being used? How frequently? How popular are they? Externally produced, internally produced. Which one do you think was more popular? The one from outside that was a highly glossy product, or one from inside that was just somebody talking about what they did at work? Internal or external? Internal. These assets were used on average 2.4 times over this period. The other ones were used almost twice as much. They didn't look so good, but they were real and they solved a real problem for people. Here's 3 examples of organizations that are using user-generated content really well. Black & Decker, salespeople in the US, they just want to make sure that people have got a better way of selling their products. So what they do is they gave these salespeople the device to take a video of themselves saying, hey, I've got this power saw, this is how I sell it against the, I don't know, the Stanley 250 watt power saw. And they would say about the 3 things that were different and how they'd sell it. And that would be distributed across the organization. GE Oil and Gas used video-generated content for people, and this is very sensitive information that these people are doing. They are looking at how the pipelines run. Are they effective? Are they secure? Are they going to break down at any point? There are technicians that go out into the field and maintain these pipelines. And these guys, again, were asked to video themselves and share the information. Now, this is pretty complicated stuff. You don't want these guys to get it wrong. But they managed to find a mechanism, and I won't go into it now, whereby it was possible for them to check the content, have it reviewed by experts, and then they'd post it online. A lot of these were really poor videos by people whose native language wasn't English and who didn't necessarily speak very clearly online. They put captions on it. It made a huge difference to their ability to go out and fix problems quickly. But of course, both in Black & Decker and certainly with the oil guys, these were highly educated people. The Grab example is very interesting. Do you know what Grab is? Yeah? What? Okay. It's like an Uber. It is. Not just on bikes, although that's quite fun, actually. I sometimes get a bike taxi to get to Heathrow. You know, the traffic's really bad, and they just say, yeah, you get on the bike, you sling your suitcase on the back, and you're cutting through the traffic, and you arrive in like 20 minutes. And you're a little bit excited as well by the time you get there. So I'm totally going to get a Grab on bike when I get to Vietnam. Right, back to the case study. They've got something like 2 million people driving for them. These guys are not like the other people highly educated. These guys are typically guys that are trying to make a buck doing stuff. How do they share what they've got in Indonesia, Vietnam, wherever, Malaysia? Again, they do video. They take a video of themselves, they share it. Classic issue, what's your issue if you're a driver? Dealing with difficult customers. It's one of the biggest courses on any catalogue. I had a customer today, he said this is how I dealt with it. Now, of course, naturally, these have to go through quality control because not all the ways of dealing with your customer are going to be exactly. You don't want to spread it around. But there's great content there. How else do you train 2 million people? How else do you get the information out there? You cannot get it out there any other way than that. And what's the platform? Christine, what's the platform that Grab are using? Axonify, as it happens. Yeah. Okay. So it's a great case study of getting user-generated content, giving it quality control, getting it out there at massive scale. Question? We've got another question here. Yeah.
That's all well and good
Yes.
in terms of people capturing their own content, but what's the watch back rate? So what I'm getting at is we can get people to film themselves, about their learnings or what they're doing, their success stories, but then in terms of the ripple effect of others being able to learn from that, what's the actual watch back rate?
Okay, go ahead and answer.
I train taxi drivers for the RTA here. We train 27,000 drivers in customer service.
Right.
We do exactly that. So we use Moodle as our LMS. We get the drivers to upload videos with difficult customers or, where to go for good fares, all of that sort of stuff. We check them once a month. We make sure that the quality's there. We give them a prize of 500 dirhams a month for the best video. So they're all watching each other's videos. They're all friends going, hey, watch my video, please. I'll get 500 dirhams and we'll share it amongst us. So, it costs us 500 dirhams a month. We get 100, 200 videos a month. So that's the...
I think that's a great example.
Yeah,
it's one great mechanism.
In Urdu, it's in Arabic, it's in every language. So that's how we do it.
I've seen this being used in telecoms companies where you've got the video being used in some stores, in some territories, and not in others. And because it's a telecoms company, they're able to track what's happening. The territories where this is being used are much more successful with their sales. And in this particular example I'm thinking of, they have a 6% increase in the lifelong value of the customer as opposed to the areas where they're not being used. So you can see an effect right away from being able to describe, in this case, the content or the features of a product, right the way through to the bottom line, the key metric for a company, which is a telecoms company, lifetime value of the company, lifetime value of the customer, absolutely increased it. But you're absolutely right. The metrics are crucial. Without that, you've just got people throwing up videos. So what? Yeah. Do we have a?
It's just you mentioned very quickly. You just have to do quality control over it.
Yes.
But that's a huge work. You need people to do this quality control, and you need SMEs to actually check that it's the right quality.
It depends. Actually, well, it depends. You may need an SME or not. But whatever it is, it's less work than creating the videos in the first place.
It's constant. You have to do that on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
If you're creating videos on a daily basis, then you need to have this constant review. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're 5,000 people and 2 people in LND, how do you do that?
So can I add that? When you're
come forward a bit. Sure.
So the accelerated option for that is crowdsourcing your quality control too. If you think about the strength of peer evaluation, if you offer that facility, people are incredibly disciplined about calling each other out.
Like you do on TripAdvisor, like you do on everything else, you like it, and you get to see what they are sharing, which they might be sharing with their colleagues standing next to something, advising them how to do something. Now you get to see what, if you know what everybody else gets to say, that's actually not the standard. So then you see what we need to find on experience every time. That's very
Are you concerned that the 500 dirham, and I'm not suggesting it is, but devil's advocate, is there a risk that that's us making people create videos which aren't necessarily very good, but they're just getting their mates to watch it? Right. Yeah. Yeah, I love that answer. Yeah. And it's not just the 500 dirhams either. Hey, I'm the guy who made that video that month. There's a lot of kudos. I would do it for 500 dirhams. I want that video. I'm going to get myself a taxi pass. All right, now we've approached this issue earlier on during this conversation. Skills. Have we got the skills? Resoundingly, the answers come back, no. But let's not be downhearted. I think there's ways of improving our skills and also identifying where we may be weak and need to work. Does anybody know who this is, by the way? This is David. Yeah, and it's a statue by Donatello, and it's in Florence. And it's one of those extraordinary things about art. You can see a picture of it, but you go and see it, and it's mind-blowing when you see it in reality. So, although I live in the technological world, I have to make the point that go and see something, and seeing something face-to-face is always different, and it's always worth it. Anyway, a lot of skill required to make that statue. Mind-blowing. It was part of the Renaissance that led us to where we are now. Okay, my question to you, for 21st century learning and development, what are the skills that we need to have? I'm going to ask you very quickly, turn to your neighbour, 1 minute, and then we'll do some feedback. If you've not got a neighbour, shuffle over and talk to somebody. What you got? I think the answer. That's a online. Both. Get some feedback. Okay, let's get some feedback. Okay, what skills do we need? 21st, yes, sir. This gentleman here.
Business savvy?
Business, yes, I believe that. Any detail?
We cannot
talk about things that our business is not talking about.
Yeah.
We cannot go on our own journey and offer a standard catalog of offerings. That era is gone for L&D. So we need to be agile. We need to be very nimble in what we offer to business as training.
Okay.
Then consulting is a big piece.
Yes.
That's something that all L&D professionals need to improve as a skill. And last but not least is technology savvy.
Yes. Okay. Covered pretty much everything. Good. Thank you. That's great. Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest complementing yours. I think accounting is the language of business. If you don't know accounting, you don't know business. The other, I would encourage everybody to learn how to code, even if you are not going to code yourself, but just go through the experience to get a structure.
I learned to code in 1981. You can't use any of that code today, but does that count? Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Because actually I learned to code in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I couldn't code today anymore. But it gave me a way of thinking more in a more structured way.
There we are. There we are. Okay, good. So coding or thinking in a structured way, business savvy, particularly consulting, yes.
Since we're talking about measuring performance and impact, we need to understand what kind of metrics we're looking for.
What kind of metrics we're looking for?
Yeah. What question we need to ask, and what is the language needed in L&D.
Really good. I like it. I'd put all that in consulting, in particularly performance consulting, getting to the root of the problems, asking the right questions, getting to what we need to do. Yes. And okay, go on. One here and then one here. Well, we have two microphones. Where's the other microphone? Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead and then.
We already covered. We actually discussed about change agility because
change
in the VUCA world at the moment we need to be very much change agile. I would say. So when it comes like digitalization is disrupting the world, so I think that is one which is already covered. Other than that, I would say that like for example, as L&D professionals, we need to be more go towards performance consulting rather than being order takers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that is one few things we have discussed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Change management and performance consulting. Totally. Yes.
Yeah, we discussed also, and it's very much in line, creativity and open-mindedness.
Yes, and we had that at the front as well here. You didn't hear it, I was just having a conversation. Yes. Creativity, open-mindedness, and being curious as well. Yeah. Yes. And the front here.
Learning science
Yes.
A big piece for us because most of us actually don't come from either an education or psychology, professional psychology
Now, strictly speaking, that's not a skill, that's knowledge.
But something that we need to understand.
But I am totally with you. Generally, as a profession, we don't know nearly enough about learning science. And in my role as the chairman of the Learning and Performance Institute, over the coming couple of years, I want to get together a body of knowledge that we're suggesting is the key body of knowledge that people need to have to really do a good job. Yes.
And yeah, it touches on this, but it's not actually specific to it. But I think what will be very important moving forward for us in our profession, the L&D profession, is actually having business leaders here actually coming here to understand what we're doing. I think from a 21st century point of view, because typically L&D forums, etc., will never typically see the business leaders from sales, marketing, wherever. If we could, so they could understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, I think that would certainly help in that whole relationship factor.
And you're absolutely right. That place where I did the training in Excel was a factory, and it had an in-gate and it had an out-gate. Goods came in through the in-gate, products went out through the out-gate. The training, well, they had three buildings. They had the headquarters, they had the manufacturing piece, they had the training room. In the training room, people went in, they were processed, and they came out again. It was exactly the same as the manufacturing process. And that's how the business saw it. And the people from headquarters never went across the car park to the training room. It was just a place where things happened to people. And that's exactly what we need to get over. Now, that's not really a skill issue, you're absolutely right. Okay, I've got the answer for you, fortunately, all the skills on the next slide. Are you ready? It's very exciting. There we go. Okay, so I'm not trying to... okay, let me give some background. The institute that I chair, which is the Learning and Performance Institute, has a tool, a free tool, that for you to use, and free bit of intellectual property, which is the capability map, which are the 25 skills for the 21st Century Learning and Development Department, split into these 5 categories. This code here, you can go to the, that takes you through to where you can download the PDF with all the skills in detail and go and look at it in more information, more detail. The point is that stuff that I did in the past, the Excel training, is this bit here. Just one of those skills. It's face-to-face learning. That's where we come from, but it's not everything. There's a lot more here. So change management is on here. Accounting, sorry, Nico, accounting is not on here. Sorry, but we have got some things about finance on here. What we've done is we went out over a period of 6 months. Well, we defined it first in 2012. We went out last year. We did a complete refresh of it. We spoke to 50 people across 11 time zones. We got feedback from 3,500 people. We created this map on a crowdsourced basis with quality control from experts to be a tool that you can use, both your individuals or other people, to assess where they are and where to go. So it's 25 skills spread over 4 levels. I'm just getting to the key bit of research here, which I think is important for us to know. If you go online and you look at it, it's a very simple tool. You just say what level you're at, and you can get a report out of it that says where you are, okay? The key thing is, of these skills, of these 25 skills, what do you think? We've had, since October when we relaunched it, since October, we've had 1,100 people go through it. Of that group, of those skills, rated 1 to 4, which skills do you think are rated the highest? Which skills do you think we know the most about? So shout it out. The pink one. The pink one. And probably the blue one. You know what? You're not wrong. Okay, so top one, yay! Facilitate face-to-face learning, unsurprisingly. Designing and developing solutions and content. That's what we've done for the lifetime of the profession, of course. So we're strong with these, fantastic. Very highly rated. We've got people who can do this well. Obviously. We want to know, where are we weak? Any guesses? Straight out of the truck, analytics. Well, accounting is not on there. Okay, of the 25 skills, the 23rd one is marketing and communications. We don't do that very well, and yet it's an essential part of getting people engaged in what we do. Finance, which is not far from accounting.
Well, I think it's finance, but I'm still there.
What's number 25? Those top 3 things on the survey said data and analytics were so important, and it's the thing we're weakest at. Okay, so what's our takeaway from that? My takeaway is that we've got a different sort of profession going forward. It used to be I could do my Excel thing and that was enough, and it's not enough anymore. Not enough anymore by a long chalk. So I think, just to quickly wrap up, there are 4 things to look at in terms of the change of L&D and the skills side. Firstly, data, we know, is important. We've just got to get on top of it. We've got to know how to do analytics, ask the right questions. So I think coding is an interesting point. We've got to think about things in a different way. And we have to have a data-driven approach to what we do. As a profession, we are moving from where you could be generalists to a different world. It used to be you trained and you did a bit of everything else and everything got along all right. We're going definitely towards what's called the T-shaped professional. So you know a little about a lot of things and a lot about one thing. Maybe analytics, maybe finance, maybe running the IT system in L&D. But it's no longer the place where we can just have generalists who can do everything. It's too complicated. There is too much to do. The toolbox is bigger. We used to do creating and delivering content online or face-to-face. We still do that, but we've got to do all this other stuff as well. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do everything. But look, you've got 2 people looking after 3,000 people. How do you handle 25 skills? You can't. And that's where the teams bit comes in. We have to be working with the rest of the business. We haven't got marketing and communication skills. You can't go out and become a Marcoms expert overnight. You can't become a data analytics person overnight. But you can go out and buy your marketing person lunch. Go and get some sort of beverage of an alcoholic or non-alcoholic nature with your guy from IT. You have a conversation with them. You start building a relationship, and perhaps you get them to do some work for you, perhaps you do some work for them, perhaps you just learn from them. But we have to work in closer teamwork with the rest of the business. Maybe we can use consultants, maybe we can use our peers on social media. But whatever, we're pulling people in to help us do this because we can no longer do it all by ourselves. Unless you're lucky enough to have a huge team. And I've worked with some organizations like PwC, they've got hundreds of people worldwide dealing with L&D, and they can do that. The rest of us have to just be a bit clever about working with other people. I'm excited by this, though. For me, this is the moment when learning and development stops being a cottage industry, where you make everything in one room, and starts becoming a bit of a grown-up member of the 4th industrial revolution. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us. I didn't take this photograph. This photograph was taken some time ago. What about, how long ago?
10 years.
10 years ago, maybe?
12.
Yeah, 12 years ago. Okay. And this space, I don't know, 10 years before that was just, am I correct in saying it was just sand?
Yeah.
That's absolutely mad. And now, of course, it's a built-up area, and I'm staying in a hotel somewhere near there. It's mad for me to think about that pace of change. You know, on this here, this has been there for 10 times longer than these buildings have. It's just mad. The pace of change is happening, and we've got to get with the program. Before we go on to my action plan that I'd like you to all get engaged with to help us be part of the growing profession, quick break for Q&A. So this is a natural pause point. Any questions on anything we've said so far on technology and trends, skills, and on content? Any thoughts, any questions? Or is the lure of a cup of coffee or whatever at 11:30 too much? Hazel.
John, do you see anywhere in the world kind of like I don't know, the crystal ball, the places as elderly people we should be looking at? We had this conversation. We used to be able to go to ATV every year and give myself a window of time to judge what's coming next. Do you see anywhere it's a place we should be looking, and how long do you think that starts to impact the rest of the world?
The answer is no. There is no one part of the world that is ahead of everybody else. We used to say that the US was well ahead of everybody else, but it isn't quite the case anymore. It's interesting that Europe and the UK as well as part of Europe is doing stuff that's interesting and a bit different. The US is doing stuff that is go ahead. Looking at those results from the Middle East, I don't believe that it's necessarily, perhaps it's, I don't know, 12 months, a bit behind Europe, but also there are special things here. There are great interesting things happening in India. So I'd say rather, I think we're a global community, and what we need to do is look at where exciting things are happening in each place and pick out good practice from everywhere. And if you want to go to any conferences, of course, the Learning Technologies Conference is really the one you should be going to, not ATD. A legitimate question. The Learning Technologies Conference is in February in London and also in July. The July one is by invitation. So you just need to send me an email at the end of this presentation, right? But the February one you have to pay for. All right, let's go on and have a look at the action stuff I'd like to do. First of all, I would really, I called it a 4-point plan. It's not a plan, it's a provocation. It's just a few points to try to see if you can do some things. Firstly, just go and consider your skills in your departments. It's this free online tool, and I download the PDF as well, have a good look at it and understand the skills that we're talking about. Also, we're going through, by the way, producing this thing in 2012, then refreshing it in 2018, the capability map, was an incredibly arduous process. We have to go through it again in 2020 because we go through a constant refresh. So if you get on board with this, I will be asking you for your input for 2020 as well. So firstly, consider your skills, your departments. Just think where you are. Secondly, I'd really like you to think about this right now because I'm going to ask you a question about it. We did our grid, the grid that's on the walls, the matrix. On that delivery matrix, what's the one thing that you would like to shift? From, for example, classroom to social learning, or from books to, I can't quite read that one anyway, but yes, from books to floor walking, I think it was. Okay, what's the one thing that's most important for you to shift? The second one, we have this discussion about user-generated content and curating. Where do you think you might be able to do that in your organization? I'm asking you to write those answers down because we know that if you write something down, you're more likely to take action. And I'm going to ask you to do something else now, which means you're more likely to take action, which is to turn to the person next to you and actually say it. If you say something, it makes it more likely you actually do it. That's why my wife gets me to say that I'm going to go to the shops and get the milk. Okay. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is some follow-up. So we've got a webinar which we're going to run after Ramadan, 12th of June at 1 p.m. local time. What we want to do on that is to follow up, see if we can provide more resources, ideas, as we've done today, have conversations about some of the key issues you're facing and how to tackle them. In order for us, for me, to produce the content for that and to do a good job supporting you, I need to know what you've just been talking about. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to use Poll Everywhere to give me that information. So, the first thing, I'd just like you to write in, what do you need to shift on the training delivery matrix? Is there one thing you want to move away from? Just type it in. We'll compile that information. That will enable me to get an idea of what we should be looking at. difficult to know because they're obviously, oh, we are, got some things coming through. This is really interesting, guys. Thank you. And of course, it's all anonymous. Oh dear. Right, I'm going to talk very quickly for the last 60 minutes of this presentation. What's... Okay, it looks like this one's going to go down. Maybe it's got too hot. I don't know. The buttons. Okay. If I move on to the next question, if I move on to the next poll, is it still possible to answer on this one?
You won't be able to go back and answer it, but whatever has been answered on there, we will share with everybody afterwards. So all the feedback through all the polls today, we'll share with everyone. But you won't be able to answer it once you move on.
Let's move on anyway. So the next one is, do you think you've got some people in your organization with great ideas that they could share? Pick a topic where curating content will have impact. So it might be, I think our drivers should share information about how to deal with difficult customers, although you're already doing that, for example. Or it might be pricing, yeah. Competitive information is always a strong one here. Right. To preserve your anonymity. Oh no. Okay. Hey, we're back up and running. Fantastic. Has anybody else had your computer wanting to update right at the most? I've never had my TV wanting to update. That's just really a slap in the face, isn't it? Okay, I've got still stuff coming in. It is interesting. I see your sales has come up a few times, and very often user-generated content with sales just enables you to get differential stuff through the organization faster, and it does make a difference. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up in a second. Okay, but I want to get this stuff coming in.
Who's right finance?
Okay, I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to take us through to a conclusion. And Hazel, you can do your finishing piece. Okay. So that's a reminder. Our webinar will get together again online if it's convenient for you. 12th June, 1300 hours. Just see where we're going, and we'll have a discussion. I'll share some more resources, be part of that learning journey for everyone in the room. We've covered 4 things today. Technology, we've seen that data is now a driving force in learning and development, and it will continue to be so, I have no doubt. It means we have to shift what we're doing and how we approach ourselves as a profession. Content is changing. We do not any longer have to be the people producing stuff all the time. It's very time intensive. User-generated content is a great way of getting around that, but we do need quality controls very often. Skills of L&D are changing, not because delivery isn't important anymore, but because other things are equally important as well, particularly analytics and marketing communications, in which we are weak. Finally, change happens, and if I can be part of supporting you in your change, that'd be great. This factory that I did the training at no longer exists. And you might think, Don, it's because they went out of business. Not so. They're a go-ahead company. a telecoms company that produced the first transatlantic cable that went from the UK to the US in the mid-19th century. They had prime real estate because this building was built on the Thames. So of course, they sold it. They're now doing their manufacturing of telecommunications products in a very state-of-the-art product in northern France, and they're doing it very effectively, and their L&D has changed completely. So they are a 19th century business that managed to transform itself, and that's what the site looks like now. It's not a gloomy factory, it's a rather swanky set of apartments overlooking the Thames. If they can change themselves so dramatically, I think we can too. So, please, don't be downhearted if you are. Be positive. Oh gosh, we've gone back in time. All right. Well, I'm just going to put that to one side now. We're finished. There we go. Magically, we're transformed. Listen, I am here. Donald H. Taylor on everything. Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, Gmail. Look me up. Stay in contact. It's the end of a presentation. It's the beginning of a conversation. Please, let's stay in touch. I'm here to serve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
First of all, for flying in and kind of like doing the red eye yesterday morning on the radio for me and spending some time and exploring Dubai. First time in Dubai, so I think we always like to welcome people that come and then tell their story of Dubai back out to the rest of the world. So.
And I have to say, I've had a great time. Great people. I have loved what I've seen, and I can't wait to come back.
You can't wait to come back. Excellent. So the way we get Donald H. Taylor to keep coming back is to make sure that you are engaging in his surveys, you're contributing to things. In the Middle East, I'm always asked, why isn't there more data about the Middle East? It's because you guys don't fill out any surveys. So we will be sending out your surveys. We'll be engaging with Donald. This is the start of the journey. A little thank you very much, Donald, for being here. We're very famous for our patchy chocolates here in Dubai. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Round
very
of applause
much.
to Donald.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you back to Matt Jennison in a moment, but there's a couple more thank yous I just need to say. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Sabia, who, if you turn around and wave, Sabia, wave at Sabia, and Sabia will wave back. Sabia's worked tirelessly on this event, along with the team, with Gaia, with Lani, with all of the other business that have made it possible, Courtney, all of that. Thank you so much for, actually, this is normally a workspace, so you know there are desks, there are even people maybe back there, behind us. Anybody? Yes. Who've worked quietly through the whole process. This is normally a workspace. We change it so that we can actually have you all here, and everybody accommodates that. So we really appreciate all of your flexibility and accommodation. So thank you, business, for that. And finally, I'd also like to thank Exonify and Christine for making sure that this is possible. So Christine, these are for you. Being an amazing partner, and I'll hand back. We do really want just a little bit more data from you. That's really important. So this gives us a chance to improve and get better and keep bringing learning to L&D managers and L&D professionals who typically don't seem to get an awful lot of money spent on them. So our intention is to keep helping you grow, because if you can grow, then we can change the industry and we can help everybody else grow. So thank you very much.
Okay, so you are literally 90 seconds from going to wherever you need to be next. I'm sure that is on your mind, but in return for what we've given you today, we would value your feedback. So these events, if you haven't been before, are part of a series. We've been doing this for several years, and so your feedback is hugely valuable to us. The one thing we didn't do is actually, I think you should be giving yourselves a round of applause actually for all the great questions and the interaction. So well done, everybody. You know, one of the top two things that people value about these events actually is the interaction with each other, the community of learning professionals. And we want to keep you connected to that. So a couple of quick questions, if it works. Yep. So please let me know how you would rate this event. It really helps us. Sabia deserves that feedback from you. I think you'll agree. So if you could quickly answer that one. Just 5 more seconds. Public feedback. I think you did well, Sabs. Okay, 2 more seconds. Next question. How likely are you to recommend to a friend, a colleague, someone else you know in the industry? We would love for you to share that with somebody else, but please let us know.
6 is fine too, and we would love to know why. You know, we're always looking to improve. We're never perfect. We try to get it right. There's always things that we notice, but we really value that, your feedback on that. So please share it with one of the team. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, three things you can essentially do next. If you want to know how to leverage artificial intelligence to create a personalized learning experience in your organization, whether you've got 1,000 people or 100,000 people, if you want to know how to bring learning analytics into your business so that your CEO is giving you a pat on the back in the next couple of years, you need to go upstairs. So Alex Augusti, I think he must be up there. There he is, holding his hand up at the back of the room. Good looking gentleman with the glasses. He's going to be running a 30-minute demo on Axonify. So Axonify does all of these things for you and much, much more. Some of the existing clients in the room who are already Axonify customers will know this, but if you want to know how the platform does that, take 30 minutes of your time, go up to the Modern Learner. Our team will show you the direction. Second thing, so we've got some existing Axonify customers in the room. Congratulations, you are early adopters. You already got access to this stuff. There is an Axonify customer conference this afternoon, but you will also be joining us for lunch with Don. If you would like to join us, but you're not an existing Axonify customer, please let one of my team know. I'm sure we can find a few extra sandwiches or whatever it is that we've got behind. And finally, can I ask you to do one more thing? Can I ask everyone to please take your mobile phone out once more? It's probably in your hand already. Can you open up your calendar, Outlook, whatever tool it is that you have? Christian's refusing point blank. If you haven't done it already, please put the 12th of June at 1 p.m. in your calendar. Create the invitation. It saves my team sending out 150 invitations for the people we've got. Put that in your calendar and actually invite some people. Invite your colleagues, invite someone to that. If you make it, awesome. If you can't, we understand. We know you're busy. But put that date in your diary. It'll be the opportunity to learn more from Don, and it'll also be an opportunity to reconnect with everybody else that's in this room. So it's a continuation of that journey, so please do that. And with that, I invite you to be on your way. Thank you very much.